we've been friends since first grade. The yin to my yang, as we would say, the guy that was calm but I was loud, but it worked. You appeared on Run's House with me a lot, obviously.
I felt like I was living two different lives. I wouldn't tell people at school that I'm going to record, for a reality show. I'm getting picked up today. Slide off to the side, MTV, black luxury vehicle, come pick me up. You could really see the parallels of Run DMC's story and Team Blackout's story, like you said, just the way that we came.
Not the same success, everyone. Don't go.
Yeah.
We didn't have. We get it. We're not running.
Right.
We're not running. We get it.
But just the way that we came together, and just obviously that's your dad, so you share certain personality traits, I assume, of your father. In a way, I was a lot like DMC from what I hear about DMC.
Reggie's Toyota, the blue Toyota Camry he used to have, it was a little broken down, a little older. And that was the Team Blackout mobile. I remember you guys telling me a story that you guys were trying to go out to a club. Because you guys were so hot at the time, it was Run's House times, it was kind of peak level Run's House, that you guys you parked up the street and around the corner to make sure that people didn't see you guys getting out or getting into this car. I'm sure it was funny at the time, but laughing, but I'm sure that was challenging that you even had to think like that mentally to be like, oh, I gotta protect the brand. What's up, everybody? It's your guy, JoJo Simmons, and welcome to the For Good podcast, where we focus on the good, never the bad, and we're measured by what we do, not what we have. Today, I'm sitting down with my best friend since first grade, Zach, from forming our rap group Team Blackout in middle school and appearing alongside me on reality TV to building a career as a music educator and becoming a godfather to my daughter, Mia. Zach has been by my side through every chapter. He's not just a friend, he's family. And his story is an important part of mine. So let's get into it, guys. My brother, Zach, thank you for being here, man. I can't wait to get into these questions with you.
Of course, bro. Appreciate you having me, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is an exciting one. I know a lot of people, some people would probably remember Team Blackout, whether it was good or bad or for whatever. And a lot of people probably remember your role in my life on Run's House, and I'm pretty sure they remember you as the light-skinned guy from the group. You know what I mean? So very excited to do this conversation. When I was able to contact you, say, hey, you want to come on the podcast? And you said, yeah. It was a good feeling, because I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good one. So let's get into it. I got a few questions for you, my brother. My first question to you is, for those who don't know you like how I know you, how do you introduce yourself to people, and how would you introduce yourself today to my listeners?
Well, I tell them my name's Zach, from Queens, New York, former rapper, entertainer, turned educator. That's basically what I've been up to these days. Well, for the past 11 years now, I've been teaching music. I've been a music teacher in the elementary school for this amount of time, and life is great, and have a lot of life experience just based off of the years from Run's House and childhood and all the way up to now. I feel like I've developed a lot as a man, and just elevated in different ways.
So yeah, I already know, I love how you kind of culminated everything that you've been up to in a quick overview, because that's what this interview is going to be about. I'm going to be asking you a bunch of questions about growing up, your life, your love for music, things that you do now, things you've done in the past with me. So love how you kind of answered that. So you and I have been friends, the question says best friends, but we weren't best friends since first grade, but we've been friends since first grade. I'd probably say the best friend thing probably started maybe 5th, 6th grade.
Exactly.
So we've been friends since first grade. Now it's a funny question, because I always have the story about like how I became friends with you, or how I even became acquainted with who Zach was. The whole funny story of everybody wanted to sit next to Zach in first grade, and I thought you were like what is so special about this dude, right? And I went and sat down next to you. I remember I planned it out in my head. I was like, I'm gonna be the first one to sit down with Zach in his music class, and I sat down with you. And my first thought was like, what's so special about this dude?
Right.
Why was everybody going so crazy over Zach? But we were friends ever since that story, right?
Right.
So from your perspective, what made you want to be friends with me back then? especially how different we are. Um, in context, I'll say I'm wilder. You're more conservative. It's always been like that. Um,
Right.
from your perspective, how did we become friends and best friends, and what made you, want to be friends with somebody like me?
Yeah, I think it's accurate of what you were saying. Like, we've known each other since first grade. We've been to school all those years. Like, it was definitely around fifth grade. I feel like that was around the time when we were able to actually hang out,
Mhm,
outside of school.
mhm.
And I think, just us being different personalities, and you know how they say, sometimes you balance each other out, opposites
The
attract.
yin and the yang.
Yeah, the yin
Yeah.
and the yang, so I think that's just like a natural part of just our friendship of how it just started. I think we just kind of balanced each other really, really well. And when you're a kid, you just having fun with your friends, and like to play and playing sports together, and we connected through sports and music and all that. So there's a lot of that we had in common as friends, I would say, that brought us together.
As I think about it, I would also say that, like, I remember, I think your parents played a huge role in it as well. Because I remember there were times where, my parents couldn't bring me to a birthday party, and your parents would always be like, all right, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll pick up JoJo. And I remember being young, in the car with you in the back and getting to know you more through those rides to those birthday parties, just because your parents kind of told my mom, like, hey, my mom probably was working, you know what I mean? As she always was when I was growing up. And your mother and father was like, yeah, we'll pick up JoJo and, we'll bring him home. And you guys did that, your parents did that a lot for me growing up. You know what I mean? So I think that also helped our personal connection and our best friendship, because we got to get to know each other through that way. Like you said, we got to hang out outside,
Mhm.
but also got to like kind of feel like part of your family at a very young age.
Exactly.
Um, Speaking about family and your parents, doing a lot for me and meaning a lot to me. You're my daughter Mia's godfather.
Yeah.
And to me, I feel like you take that role very seriously. What did it mean to you on a personal level when I asked you to be her godfather?
Oh man, it meant everything, man. Like you said, I don't take that title lightly. And just thinking back to all the years that we've known each other and been friends, and leading up to this point, now you're a grown man, and you're a father, you're a husband, and you enter that chapter in your life of having your first child, and I was just very excited to have that honor, and just think of the culmination of all these years leading up to now, it just meant a lot.
So, I remember the day I told you in my mother's house in my room, like, we're having a baby, whatever. I want you to be godfather. But like, what was the feeling like? Dang, my guy from adolescent, is becoming into fatherhood, right? He's growing, and he has to now provide and protect others. Like, what was that feeling for you? Like, damn, my boy Joe. Like, what? Yeah, obviously an exciting feeling, but like, did you feel like things were changing? Did you feel like I was maybe stepping into a different chapter into my life that would change me?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think fatherhood changed you a lot, and being a husband as well. Just like the growth, man. Like I've known you since we was little, man. So I'm very proud. I'm very proud of how what you become as a man, and all the things that you're doing in life. So I think it just makes it extra special when it's somebody that you have that much history with, and you've known since you was kids. Like,
And you know how wild I was.
right, right, right,
But
right,
at a young age, how many girlfriends I tried to have at a very young age, like, as a kid, way
right.
before.
Adolescence time,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I want to talk about Run's House a little bit and your guest appearances on there for a bit.
Mhm.
Because I know you were there from season one with me. You appeared on Run's House with me a lot, obviously. I want to ask you this question because I never really get to ask you this. How did being on reality TV impact you personally, both on the challenging sides and the positive sides too? Because I know there was a lot of positive sides, but we never spoke about, were there any challenging sides of you being on reality TV with me, and what were the positive sides?
Oh, that's a great question. I feel like it was definitely a different thing for me being on TV and being on reality television. At that time, we were in high school. So in high school, you're still learning yourself, you're still finding yourself, and your friend group and just who you fit in with, and there's a lot going on with you in high school. So to
Hmm.
have that extra layer of you in high school, but you also on TV now too, and like you making pretty consistent appearances on the show, and like people are knowing who you are and seeing you out and about. So it kind of added a whole different layer. Like for me, I felt like I was living two different lives.
Yeah, tell us the experience. I remember you telling me about after school. Like, tell us the experience of
right,
shooting Run House. Because remember, you were going. Originally I was in St. Mary's in Manhasset, Long Island, with you. I ended up moving to Jersey, so you were still in high school, St. Mary's, Manhasset, Long Island. Shout out to St. Mary's. We all
right.
went. You were there, but we were shooting Run's House in Saddle River, New Jersey. So explain to the people how that process was and how, like you said, you were living two different worlds in a sense.
Yeah, because like I'll go to school, do my regular school thing, and then I used to take the bus home from school, but then there'll be certain times when like the MTV, the production, set they would come and pick me up, some kind of black luxury vehicle come pick me up, and at the time I wouldn't tell people at school that I'm going to record, for a reality show. So people waiting for me to go on the bus and like, Zach, where you going? I'll be like, I'm getting picked up today, and I kind of slide off to the side, and there'll be a car picking me up, and just taking me out to Saddle River, and going to record, and then come
And
back,
take you home. Hmm.
yeah, take me home, and then just come back and do it all over again. Uh, yeah, it definitely felt like living double lives.
And that to me is also the humbling side of you that you always have been. Is like, of course, Zach wouldn't tell everybody he's going to go shoot a reality TV. I was the louder guy. I was like, I'm going to shoot a show, right?
Right,
Well, I mean, I wasn't as loud, but like you, that was your personality, and it still is. Like, I don't want to put that in front of. I'm gonna just go do what I got to do. You know what I mean? So it's cool to know that, like, you didn't even tell anybody. You kind of just got done what you needed done, and you was rocking with it. Well, I never asked you this question too. Like, what was that? What was that feeling when I asked you to be on the show? What was that feeling when I said, like, "Yo, come be on TV with me, and let's, go fulfill those visions and dreams that we had since, middle school."
right. I mean, I wasn't expecting it, to be honest. Like I remember, you was preparing to film the show, and the show was happening, but it really didn't cross my mind that was something that I was going to be a part of. I thought it was going to be just strictly, a family thing, and that was it. And I was ready to support you as a friend, just from the sideline, and watch. But when you invited me, I was like, oh snap! Like, all right, like this is happening. Okay, so it was a great experience, and just thinking about our group, we've been recording music since we was little, like way before Run's House filming. So to me, it's kind of like a full circle moment. Like, oh snap! Like this is
Yeah.
the time now. Like, we taking it to national television now.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I remember what made it so cool and comfortable for me was when, like, the producers came to me and they're like, "Okay, like, who are your friends and who can you bring on the show and what do you have going on in life?" And I just remember, like, cool, I could be comfortable because I could have Zach on there. Like, that's my best friend, that's my guy.
Right.
We can go in there and goof around. We can go in there and make music. We can go in there and kind of do whatever we want. But I can I can bring in my circle of, my guy. So it was a cool. It was, as much as it was probably exciting for you, it was exciting for me to bring on my guy, to be like, all right, cool. And I didn't expect you to be, as a reoccurrent as you were.
Mm,
But I remember the first episode you did, they were like, "Yeah, we love Zach. Like, he's cool, he's calm, like, you know, light skin." So obviously, he turned into a little of a heartthrob, or, as like a guest appearance. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So I mean, and people would think I'm joking, but seriously, like, these are the times where we used to get like letters and stuff like that, and people would, definitely write about Zach. Um,
Nice.
so I do want to talk about one thing though, because I know that you said that, you talked about a lot of the positive sides, and I didn't really hear much of the challenging sides, but I do remember this one story you and Reggie told me, and
Mm,
it always struck me, and I've always like was like, damn, like I didn't know like they were protecting the brand that much. So I remember one day you told me, Reggie's Toyota, the blue Toyota Camry he used to have, it was a little, a little broken down, a little older. And we rode in that thing.
it's
That was
called
the Team
Hoopty.
Blackout mobile
Yeah.
before the Runs House, during everything, right?
Yep.
And I remember you guys telling me a story that you guys were trying to like go out to a club or something, and because you guys were so hot at the time, it was Run's House times. It was kind of peak level Run's House, and people always would notice you guys, even without me with you.
Right.
That you guys wanted, you parked like up the street and around the corner. to make sure that people didn't see you guys getting out or getting into this car. I'm sure like it was funny at the time, but like laughing, but like I'm sure that was challenging that you even had to think like that mentally to be like, oh, I got to protect the brand or I got to protect this image of people thinking, okay, just because we in a group with JoJo, we're supposed to be rich, right? Or we're supposed to have the newest, nicest cars. Like, what was that feeling for you on that day? Like, I mean, I know, like I said, it just felt like nothing, but if you really broke it down and think about it, like, it's kind of crazy, right? That you guys had to do that because you would think that people would be like, well, what is Team Blackout doing in that, that old Toyota, right? How was that feeling for you?
Yeah, like I mean, it became something that we got used to, but it's definitely a certain perception of being on TV, and people feel like they know you because they see you often on the screen, but we live a whole different lifestyle, and they might not know like the things going on in our personal lives, and just thinking back to even those times, social media wasn't a thing then, so like we were still worried about that kind of stuff even without social media being around. 'Cause, like
We
imagine,
worried about media takeout at the time and TMZ, right?
right,
Those
right,
were the guys we were worried about. Like if they snap a picture of us, then they're gonna, it
right,
was
right.
very those times were very different than these times.
Right. We didn't want people to, look down on us or, think less of us any kind of way. We were still very young and, we were trying to navigate it all. So we just felt like in those times it was just best for us to, when it came to stuff like that, like seeing us pull up in Reggie's Toyota, just be low about it. And, we park far away and stay out of sight when it comes to that. And, it's kind of tough, trying
Yeah.
to try to meet a idea of what people may view you as and perception
Right.
is a bit.
Especially because, a few years before Run House, you didn't have to do that. You could have probably just parked the Toyota in front of the spot and just
Right,
got out, right? And nobody would have even
right,
cared.
right,
Would have been regular kids in a car at 16, 17, because even that in a sense was cool. You guys had transportation, you know
right.
what I mean? So, very, very, I always wanted to ask that question. So it's just a very interesting take that you had. Um, Speaking
Oh,
about, oh, well, I'm listening.
yeah, yeah. And just thinking about it too, like back in those times, uh, I realized that things was getting really lit for us when we would get noticed and recognized when we weren't with you. Like
Right.
in the beginning, it would be when we was hanging out with you and we would get stopped and people would go crazy and stuff like that.
Oh, that's JoJo with the group, right?
And,
Yeah.
yeah. But then it got to a point where it was like I'm by myself and people
Oh, yeah.
stopped me on the street and coming up to me and wanting to talk to me, take pictures with me. So it just changed like the whole dynamic for me every time I stepped outside.
You the guy from the J5 video. It was after J5 dropped when things got dope. DJ
Right.
Webstar, shout out to Web, showed us a whole lot of love and getting on that record with his people and really helping that kind of move a little bit for us. Although it didn't blow up or anything, but I think that was the pivotal moment for us when we were signing a deal on TV and kind of dropping records, and then we had the album run. So like
Mhm.
yeah, man, I think that's when it really got crazy. Like real crazy. So speaking of Team Blackout and you noticing when you were kind of realizing when it got real for us, I want to take it back to the beginning
All
when
right.
Team Blackout kind of got formed. I want to talk about Rapstyle Mondays, if you remember what Rapstyle Mondays are. I'll break it down real quick and I'll let you speak on Rapstyle Mondays. But Rapstyle Mondays was kind of our own rendition of Freestyle Fridays
Mhm.
that 106 in Park used to go in middle school, in old Highland Elementary, a middle school.
Shout out to
We every Monday, Zach and I used to run a freestyle battle every recess, if my memory serves me correct.
Mhm.
And it got so big that every class started doing it from the upper class because we were doing it in seventh grade, I believe. And I remember the eighth graders were doing it, and the sixth graders started doing it, and the fifth graders started doing it to the point where it got banned. This is how big
Right, right.
Rap Style Mondays got. They stopped doing it on Mondays. They were doing it on random days. It was getting
Yeah.
crazy.
We
I'll never
getting
forget it.
caught, we in trouble. Yeah.
It was wild. So I want to speak about Rap Style Mondays. This is before Team Blackout started. What was the experience like, and how did it evolve? How did it evolve the creation of Team Blackout? The group.
Yeah, I think that was the time when you first learned that I could rap. We used to play together, have fun and all that, be in school, but I was still very quiet about that part of me too, that I was writing rhymes on the low. And so when we started doing our freestyle Mondays and getting into our rap battles and stuff, that's when you notice like, oh snap, like Zach is nice.
Buddy is nice. Yeah, buddy is
Like
nice.
my best friend Rob, like I didn't know you did that.
Yeah,
So, like
yeah.
that was the moment, like it brought us together musically, like and we were just always excited, and that just show you just the passion that we had for the music back then. Always watching 106 in Park and stuff like that, and Freestyle Fridays, and we wanted to do it in our own school and got everybody involved. And I remember we would be writing rhymes. We used to write the rhymes down. It wasn't off the top, but
Oh, but we memorized them though. The good one, the people that cared for stage presence, I would say,
exactly
memorized their rhymes, like myself
right.
and you and a few others. I would say a few others, but we had the white boys freestyling against each other too.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody,
yeah,
girls started freestyling. I'm
right.
lying, Zach.
Did not,
Everybody was getting in on
everyone
this,
got
man.
involved.
Yeah, girls versus boys. It didn't matter. It was like
It was
whoever wanted to
crazy.
battle, you had to battle. And then we had judges. Like it was like the best rappers that was like undefeated were the judges, right? Which was
Right.
me, yourself, and a few others, right? But yeah, man, I just get excited. So sorry, finish your statement.
Nah. And like I would be like writing my battle rhyme like during class. Sometimes I would be in social studies class, and I'm not looking at the board. I'm writing my rhymes and stuff. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for recess. I'm gonna get him on it. So I remember like Miss Chertoff, throwback, Miss Chertoff.
Ah,
Yeah,
man.
like catching me like and taking my paper and looking at it, and I got all this stuff written down, all these rhymes, and we used to write disrespectful things to each other
Yeah.
on it. We used to go hard.
We were heavily influenced by the hip hop
Yeah,
community.
yeah.
But and I think the dopest part about Rapstyle Mondays was not only that we were able to do something fun and be impacted by something, but the leadership that it showed who we were, the impactfulness that we brought to the school, that
Mm,
they banned it. To this day, people were mad that it got banned. That day, I was happy. I was
mm,
happy it got banned, not because we couldn't do it anymore. I was mad about that, but I was like, oh, this got in my head as a kid. I knew this. I was like, we got this big. And I
yeah.
remember Mrs. What was our health teacher at the time? Mrs. Williams.
That's Williams.
I
Yep.
remember she sat there and said, whoever's been involved in these freestyle battles, please stand up. And some people didn't, and I stood up proudly and I owned it. And I was like, I started it and I don't care. And they
Yeah.
stopped it. But it just showed me like, oh, we are impactful. We can lead people off of
Mm,
music, right? So like that was a cool experience, Rapstyle Monday, and how and I can tell a story. You probably don't want to tell a story how the group started because it's a story I should probably tell, right? So how the
right.
group started out of Rapstyle Monday. This is how Team Blackout first started. Without Reggie, because we met Reggie later in life, but
High
it was
school.
just originally
Yeah.
Zach and myself. So Rapstyle Mondays was every Monday. Zach and myself it came down to the point where Zach and myself were probably the only undefeated rappers.
Yeah.
We were probably the only ones that didn't have a loss under our belt.
Yeah.
And, everybody wanted me to battle Zach. They were like, the two undefeateds should go against each other. And I will not lie to you guys. I was afraid to battle Zach. Like he said, when he rapped, I didn't know he was that good. I didn't know he was secretly like cooking up, like in his house, everywhere. So I'm hearing him rap, and at the time, I'm like, damn, he's one of my favorite rappers right now. I'm like, this
Yeah.
dude is good for our age. But mind you, we are in seventh grade, guys. And
Mm,
Zach had wordplay, he had flow, it made sense. Everything he would dish you, and it would make sense, and it just
mm,
all made sense. And so I was so my only solution to that was like, okay, cool, I can battle this guy and maybe win, but I was like, I'm probably gonna lose because I also knew you had the crowd. People liked you as a person, and that also mattered a lot too.
all right.
In life it matters, but it mattered in Rapstyle Monday. If they liked you as a person and you was a good rapper, you was most likely gonna win.
They liked you too.
Yeah,
They liked you too.
they liked me, but they ain't like me as much as you. You were nicer. You shared your gummy snacks ever
Yeah.
since third grade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's neither here or there.
Mm,
I knew you were the better rapper at the time, so I came up with a solution and said, no, the two undefeated guys aren't battling each other. We're actually now doing two
yeah.
on twos. And Zach is my rap partner. And anybody I want to go against me and Zach come and a few guys stepped up and we demolished everybody that came in our way. And that's when we realized, I
Yeah.
realized for sure, we're a rap group.
Yeah.
We have to do
Right.
this together. Don't go against each other. Let's do
Right.
this together, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's when Team Blackout formed, and we didn't have the name yet, but that's when we realized We wanted to be a group. We wanted to rap together.
Now wave your hands in the air. So check y'all. And if you're ready for Run DMC, everybody say, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And we hit the basement, my mom's basement, with the karaoke machine and the mic. And we used to record over cassette tapes with instrumentals. And we used to get the instrumentals and record over them. And
Right.
man, how many records you think we did in that basement, man?
Oh my God. We gotta have
This is
like,
before Zach. We used to just freestyle over G-Unit beats and
yeah,
this and that. We used
yeah.
to do
I remember
everything.
we had a whole CD of instrumentals. It was a lot of the G Unit like Beg for Mercy album instrumentals. I remember that. We had like mad joints on there.
We
We
did
started
everything. We
karaoke.
did my beats. We did every beat we could get our hand on, because I remember at the time you or I would get our hands on some instrumentals. I knew how to record us off the karaoke. Back in the day, it was kind of easy. You just record over the beat with the tape. You
Hmm.
recorded, and then I got into the laptop when I got older, and GarageBand came into play, and I started learning Pro Tools, and I really got into the audio engineering. I think, to say that too, my love for music growing up, that put me into the audio engineering aspect. I think of it
Yeah,
because I wanted to learn how to record us, right? And I've been the guy recording us since seventh grade, right? Like, used to come over, and it
yeah.
was no longer we're going outside to play basketball. It was my mom knew we were going in that basement to go record music, right? We just loved recording music.
And we spent
So
all day there, all day
yeah, we
down
spent we
there.
spent all day there. So as I said though, with Rapstyle Monday, I thought you were the better artist, the better rapper than myself at those times. Um, how did you see yourself as an artist at that time?
And back then when we were doing the raps Monday,
Rapstyle Mondays and Blackout times. How did you envision yourself as a rapper? Like how what were you looking like? What did you think about yourself as a rapper? I would say.
I felt very confident in my ability for sure. I feel like writing rhymes, that was like my superpower. Like that was a chance for me to like be the superhero version of myself, So, it's still me, it's still my feelings and my thoughts, but able to express it in a powerful way, and maybe in a way that I might not normally express it just on a day-to-day basis. So I always just had a lot of confidence in my ability to rhyme and to write, and I felt very just confident going into any session. Every time we recorded, and that was times when I felt myself. I was really feeling myself. In a positive way. Not really cocky or anything, but just internal confidence. Because it helps to find something that that you're good at. When
Yeah.
you're younger, like you try different things. You might not always be good at certain things, but at least you try. But like when you find like something that that you're good at and you feel really confident about it, it just is something different. And that's usually is something that you should continue to pursue and deepen that level of skill. Especially if it's something that that you're good at. Make it work for you. So I always view myself very highly as a rapper, and felt
Yeah,
like
I,
I
you
had
know,
potential. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I know you did. I could tell the confidence was there. The way you used to flow, you could do the flow, the fast flow, the slow flow, the hooks. You could do it all. Two-part question. First one I want to ask about is you saying something important. You said you felt like your hero version. Why do you feel like you needed that version of yourself? Because you said that just wasn't who you were on the regular basis, but rap helped you become that. Why did you need that person? Was it for your mental health? Was it like, let me know, like what in your mind, like why did you need that alter ego, that rap Zach alter ego?
No, it's a great question. Yeah, like that was my therapy. That was the way to express myself. Just being a quiet person, probably overthinking a lot of things. Even back then, at an early age, just being in my head a lot of the time, just thinking. That was my way to just get it all out, and I needed that outlet. Everyone has it, they find that outlet in different ways, but that was definitely my form of expression, and for me to just be myself and show a different side of myself. And I think back to even like DMC. DMC has a similar story about
You have
that.
a very similar story to DMC. I would call you my DMC for sure.
Right,
Like
right,
that's why I think like, we're such a unique group because and friends because it's almost like the relationship was formed
right.
like the way my father and DMC it started off a sports school whatever and then like you can rap. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm gonna come get you when it's time to be a group, and it felt like the same story because it's like, oh, you can rap. Well, when I have an
Right.
opportunity, I'm gonna come back and get you, and
Right.
that was the thing, right? It was like, oh, and I'm on TV now. Come on, Zach, let's go on
Mhm.
TV and let's do it, right?
Yeah, like the more I watch Run DMC documentaries and learn more about the history of the group, over the years I've watched so many different things. Uh, you could really see the parallels of Run DMC's story and Team Blackout's story, like you said, just the way that we came
Not the
together.
same success,
Yeah,
everyone. Don't
of course,
go.
yeah,
We didn't have. We get it. We're not run.
right,
We were not run. We get. It. But
yeah,
the story of how we reformed is
right.
very much
Yeah,
similar.
by no means of comparing us to Run DMC or anything like that. Like, definitely
I
not.
don't need to hear
No,
it. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely not. Iconic legends. Pioneers in hip hop. But just the way that we came together, and just obviously that's your dad. So you share certain personality traits, I assume, of your father's. Back then and still now. Um, and in a way, I was a lot like DMC from what I hear about DMC. So it's just very interesting to see the parallels of how we came together. Very similar to Run D.
Yeah, and same as you, as I watch more Run DMC documentaries, and I'm like, wow, like it shows me more and more that I am just like my father with the
Mm,
way that I moved, my morals, the type of people I tried to put myself around, the people I tried to put on around me, like the leadership, the making sure everybody else is good, the fairness, all of the things that my father did, with setting the foundation and just wanting to, from childhood wanting to be this big rapper and just forming this fire group is like it just like just shows me a lot of my similarities.
And can I say also, like, just
Yeah.
off topic, like, I feel like when it comes to you, and just for anyone that doesn't know, is like you have a lot of passion and love for the music. We would get criticized a lot of the time, and people ask like, "Why y'all want to rap? Like, what makes you want to rap?" But it's like they don't understand this, just how much like we both love the art form and love the music, and just speaking for you, you obviously you love it, and it was a passion of yours. It's been a passion of yours, and you have a great ear for music, and it's a part of who you are. It's embedded in your DNA. So anybody that's ever questioned that, they don't know you because that's just who you are. And I know that from knowing you for so many years and growing up together. But the passion and the fire is strong. It's still there.
I'm not gonna lie, I needed to hear that. I'm a little tearing up,
Yeah.
um because people don't know. A
Right.
lot of people, like you said, I think you just explained it in the perfect way. A lot of people say, why did you want to do music? Why do you want to rap? You're not that good. You're not ready. And it was the passion. It wasn't because I wanted to be a follower. It
Right.
wasn't. Yeah, obviously I wanted to be like my father. Thank God I had a father in my life that I could look up to want to be like.
Right.
And you explained it perfectly for me. It's like
Yeah.
my passion for music will never stop. And if you look at the history and my trajectory of the way that I made music from the beginning to whatever my most recent projects were, they got so much better because I studied the art of rap.
Right.
And I studied the game and I studied the ones before me because I truly wanted to be good at
Right.
the art of rap. I knew I
Right.
wasn't ready, but I wanted to be good. You know what I mean? And so like I wash my hands with it now because I know like now I can get in the booth and I can walk. Like if you hear, any of the older records, like the most recent records, like I can rap now and I'm proud of myself now. But it's just kind of what it is. And speaking of the art of rap, I want to talk about. I think that's one of the reasons why you were so good because you studied the art of rap and the history of rap from day one, which is also a similarity of DMC. You were
Right.
one of those kids that when we were going to the mall together, I'd go to Foot Locker, you were going to FYE to go get a new album. You
Yeah.
taught me who Big L was. Like I didn't know who Big L. Remember when you showed me you were getting Big L's album? I was like,
Yeah.
what? We were so young. I was like, who's this dude? That's Big L. Like you
Yeah.
crazy? And you were the one with the CD booklet of
Yeah.
albums on albums on albums, and you would read the front to back the CD. You would read the credits, and you
Right.
were and that's why I think you were so good, and that's why I realized that you were so confident because a confident person is a prepared person, and you were prepared because you studied different flows, you studied different rappers, you loved rap from a child, from
Right.
a baby, you loved it, and I think that's what made you so good is because you listened to it all day and every day. You were like a rapmatician, I would call you, like
Yeah.
you were a rapologist, if
Right.
anything, like. You know, till this day, you love hip hop, and you know the history of it, and you know when it was born, and you know where it came from, you know where it's going,
Right.
you know where it's at now. I always say you would be a good hip hop blogger, um,
Yeah.
other than a great rapper, but like because you know, speaking about my passion, your love for rap is unmatched with a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people don't know that about you. Is like, man, you are a studier of the game. You know what I mean? And to be such a studier of the game and end up next to Reverend Run's son, his best friend in the group, is like. It could only be God, right? It can only be the universe telling Zach that like this is what you were supposed to be doing. Whether this was what you're supposed to be doing now, that doesn't matter. But in that moment, this is where you're supposed to be because I'm giving this to you, my son. I know you have you're Jewish, so but I'm just speaking, you know, we all praise somebody. But what I'm saying is the universe was saying, I'm giving this to you, my son, because you love rap so much. So I'm gonna put you next to the most iconic rapper in the world, which was
Right.
Reverend Run.
Right. I think about that. I was thinking about that the other day. Actually, just like it can only be like you said, God, destiny. You know, it was
Whatever
just
anybody wants to call it,
right.
we all believe in something.
It was meant to happen because you know we met each other so young. There's no telling that that was going to be a thing that we were going to meet and connect. You know, we're just you know our families wanted to give us the best they could and put us in a good school, and they found you know a good private school in Queens, a small school that was very nurturing.
On elementary, shout it out,
Shout
man.
out to
I know it's
Highland
down, but shout out to
and
Highland, man.
you know our parents just wanted us to have a good life and we just ended up you know our paths ended up crossing and it just went from there so it's just all destiny it's meant to be.
Yeah, I remember you used to walk to school from, getting on the bus, walk to school. And me and my dad used to see you sometimes walking to the school. Because you're one
Yeah,
of those, New York. People don't know New York kids is real. Like, Zach was on a public school bus in middle school. Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah,
we used to see you sometimes, and my pops would pick you up, and we'd be in the Bentley, and we'd pick you up, and we'd
right,
ride you to school with me. And that's another, to me, just like your parents picking me up for birthday parties, that was like, I used to see you be like, Dad, that's my friend, that's my friend. He used to
yeah,
stop and pick
yeah,
you up, and like he wouldn't do
yeah.
that for anybody. So I think that also like really made us like really close too.
Yeah, yeah, I remember those times. Those were very cool moments. And there would be times actually I remember with your dad. He might have been driving to school to drop something off for you. You were already at school, and I was taking the bus. And I remember he seen me about, and he would pick me up. You know, just me and him, and drive me around the corner to the school. So
I never knew this, Dad.
yeah,
Why
yeah.
Dad ain't something? I
Yeah,
knew that. I never
it happened like
knew. That's
once or twice. You know, it happened.
so
But I remember that because you know probably from the first few times when you were with him in the car and you see me, then he's probably looking for me or at least looking out and
yeah.
seeing you know the environment, the surroundings, and he might have seen me just walking down the street going to school. And I remember him pulling up in a Rolls Royce on me and being like, "Zach, yo, hop
Yeah,
in."
it wasn't the Rolls, it was the Bentley at the time. But he
Okay.
always liked, he always liked, and he had a good sense of character because you are and probably were at the time, probably the best influence for me. As crazy as I am, you didn't walk the crazier, little edgier lifestyle that I did.
Yeah.
So speaking still about Team Blackout, I want to talk about when we started getting attention. Did you feel more excitement or pressure from the spotlight, or did you feel both?
I felt some pressure like looking back on it, but it was exciting overall, and it just felt like a dream's really coming true. I think it was just like a surreal experience. Couldn't believe it was actually really happening. Like these are things that we dreamed about as kids, and starting in your mom's basement on a karaoke machine, creating and writing songs together. And now it's like we actually we getting on. Like we on TV. Like we about to sign a record deal. Like we
We're
recording an
doing
album.
shows,
We're
girls are
doing shows.
screaming, we're shutting things down.
Crazy. Like we had some really dope moments as Team Blackout. You know, I never
Really good
forget.
moment.
Uh, yeah, so I think it was just a surreal experience for me. I couldn't believe it, and I was just like, you know, if this is what it is, and this is what I'm doing, what I'm meant to be doing, I'm going all the way with it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. As much as I know that the group got a lot of slack, but that moment we did have,
Yeah,
whoo, you would have thought we was one of the biggest groups in the world. You know
got
what
a
I
lot of
mean?
love.
It was a lot of love.
Not a lot on the side, for sure, for sure. A lot of people used to pull up on me, man. It'll be crazy. It'll be crazy sometimes.
So I want to talk about how you've always actually been into music, besides like the rap stuff, from being a drummer in a jazz band, to rapping, and now being a music teacher, which is like wow, your whole life's been evolved around music. Where did
Right.
that love for music actually come from? Like before like where did this love for just music come from?
I think my parents have a lot to do with that too. My parents, both musically inclined. My mom has a very nice singing voice, and my dad also sings very well and plays a little
I
guitar.
didn't know Jeff sings well. I
Yeah,
was gonna ask you to sing for me. I know
yeah,
Emily. I knew your mother could sing, but
right.
I didn't know your father could sing. I'm gonna ask him.
Yeah, yeah. He would, from time to time, he would be in the room and he would be playing the guitar, singing Beatles songs and stuff. And
I
my
didn't
mom
know that.
always, yeah, yeah, like my mom always enjoyed when he did that because she would always say when he does that, it means like he's in a good mood, like he's feeling happy, he's good. Like I think that was just his way of expressing himself too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but I think I got that love for music from them. You know, them playing all types of music in the house. Michael Jackson, that was like the first artist that I ever loved. Um, Before finding hip hop, you know, as Michael Jackson was everything, and just hearing all kinds of Motown and rock. Like I said, the Beatles. And my parents, both of them, big Beatles fans. So I got a taste of a lot of different genres of music.
Hanson.
Hanson, yeah, man, yeah.
Don't forget
I
about
remember
Hanson.
that. I remember you found the Hanson CD in my crib. That was funny, but
I was looking through his albums and bunch of hip hop albums, fire, and I'm like Hanson, bop. I'm
yeah,
like, what's this here in your pocket, right? What's this? What's this over here? Not to lie, though, I liked the bop too. We didn't like bop. Like Hanson
right,
bop was a hit, but like it was so rare and random to be
random.
amongst all these like hip hop great albums that you had Biggie in there and Pac and all this
Yeah,
stuff, and then
yeah,
Hanson,
Hanson.
right? Like bop, the single too. It wasn't even an album; it was just a
Right,
single.
right.
Uh,
What I liked about them, I liked that they were kids and they were playing instruments. You know, to
yep,
me that
yep.
was inspiring. And I remember the drummer. I was playing drums, and the drummer's name was Zach. So I remember that being like, oh, yeah, drummer.
I remember you always telling
Yeah,
me that. Yeah.
yeah.
So this is a cool question because I've always kind of thought about this question for you. Speaking about how confident you were as a rapper and how good I knew you were, and I think a lot of people knew you were good as a rapper,
Mm,
and comparing that to the slack and flack that comparing that to the bad reviews that Team Blackout got most of the times,
mhm.
and maybe due to me not fully being ready, who knows, right? That probably is it. I was the spotlighted guy, and I probably fully wasn't ready, right? Do you ever feel like Team Blackout was a blessing or a limitation to your rap career? Do
Oh,
you feel
no,
like, hey, if I wouldn't have been in this group, I probably could have just gun holed it by myself and really went crazy?
no, it was a total blessing. Total blessing. I wouldn't think anything else of it. It was a blessing to be in the group with you and to have the opportunity to even show and display my abilities like the way that we did on TV. You know, it was an overall blessing. I couldn't be more thankful for the experience and being on the show for all those seasons. You know, it wasn't like
Mhm.
just a one-time thing or anything. Like being on there pretty consistent throughout. I'm grateful to be a part of that, and especially that show too. Because you know, there's so many shows and so much negativity and drama-based content that's out. But Run's House is, you know, one of those positive family hip hop shows, and it was very necessary for the culture to see. And I'm just glad I was a part of something positive like that. And being a part of
Yeah.
Team Blackout was the whole thing of being a part of Run's House family.
Yeah, we were rapping together. I mean, like before Run Cells, we were rapping together. We enjoyed rapping together. Not sure like what you thought of me as a rapper at the time, but it felt like you genuinely thought like, yo, this dude is a good rap partner to have, right? So like, I never felt like, yo, you were just in this group because this was Run Son and I can get an opportunity. We never knew what we just liked
Right.
rapping together in the basement, you doing whatever, you know what I mean? Getting Reggie and making him rap for me on the phone like I was
Yeah.
some type of like mogul CEO at 14, you know what I mean?
I was just happy to have a rap partner, you know, like, you know, you hear all these stories, you know, like you said, I studied the game. I was absorbing so much about hip hop and learning about all these famous groups, of course, Run DMC, Wu Tang, NWA, Mobb Deep, like there's all these iconic groups. And, you know, all these guys had a partner that they met early on. And, you know, to me, I was just proud to have you as my rap partner, you know, to share that with and record together. And so it was just a special thing for me. And then bringing Reggie into the fold, it just made it even more special because we were close in high school, and I was happy to bring him on board and introduce him to you and just make that whole connection. A lot of funny
Yeah.
moments, a lot of really great special times.
Yeah, we're gonna get into Reggie in a few questions because
Cool,
can't
cool.
forget about the third member of the group. Obviously, it means a lot to the group. It
Right.
wouldn't be Team Blackout; it would just be Blackout without Reggie. Which is a fun story about how the group name came. Was in the year of 2003, the Blackout in New York. That was
Mhm.
the year that Reggie was added to the group, and we decided on the name Team Blackout. But Zach and I thought the name Blackout a little bit before we met Reggie, and I wanted it to be my rap name. I wanted to be Blackout. I remember we were coming up with new rap names because your first rap name was Sex Z,
I was like,
and my rap name it was Make It Happen or something. Or no, Run Son. Not
hilarious.
even Make It Happen. My rap name was Run Son.
Yeah.
Real bold, right? Like, just real, just out in your face, Run Son, right? Like that. But I was so happy to be his son. I was in fifth
Yeah.
grade, sixth grade, the name. So I remember we were coming up with new names, and you had came up with Conscious,
Conscious.
and I was like, yeah, Conscious. I remember your name was Conscious because you were a
Yeah.
very conscious rapper at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I'm gonna be Blackout, and I was like, matter of fact, that sounds like a better group name. And we
Right.
never really stuck with it until we added Reggie and was like, okay. And it made sense because 2003, and it was like, that makes sense. We're going to be Team Blackout. Don't know why we added Team. Everybody always ask me. We're not
Right.
the Power Rangers. It just
Yeah.
sounded like maybe we should have just been Blackout, but it sounded
Right.
cool at the time. Team
Right.
Blackout sounded cool. But now looking back, I'm like, I probably would have took off the team.
We
Maybe
was
like
ahead of
just
our
Black.
time though. I feel like
Yeah,
we was
we-
ahead of our time with the team because I think it became a thing like team this, team that. It's a part of like social media. People say team whatever, but we was team
Yeah.
Blackout before any of that.
Yeah,
So
we were recruiting fans, like just like that, like you part of the Team Blackout.
you were
So I want to talk
visionary.
about this. I want to talk about this funny story of us growing up, and I remember me telling you this. We were sitting in an Applebee's one time. I know you remember this story, and I told you hone into being a half black, half Jewish rapper. I said, hey. Let them know you are Jewish. Wear the iced out David Star. Let's go all the way. You could still be a fly ass rapper. You said it will never work. Who was the only hot Jewish rapper at the time?
Man, how you say his name? I don't want to say his name wrong, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but he wasn't. He wasn't like a serious rapper.
Yeah,
He wasn't
yeah.
known. Joke. It's not to say.
Something like that. I don't want to say the name wrong.
It was like a joke. He was like a jokey Jewish rapper, and Zach didn't want to believe me. He said that'll never work. Never, people will never respect it. Da, da, da. And now we have Drake.
Now
I
we have
told
Drake.
you
Now
could have been
we have
Drake before Drake. How does that feel now? That like I always kind of rub that in your face and be like, yo, you could have been Drake. Not to say that you would have turned into Drake, but I told you the narrative could have worked of a
Right.
biracial rapper that is
Yeah.
also Jewish. And look, he's the biggest rapper in the world. How does that feel to you that I kind of said that to you in our teenage years?
First side note that the rapper's name Modest Yahoo. I just looked it up. I hope I said that
Modest
right.
Yahoo
Modest
was
Yahoo,
the
something
Jewish
like
rapper. That was what is his name?
Modest Yahoo. Modest
That
Yahoo.
was his name. That was the only famous Jewish rapper at the time, and he was more like a joke. But like back into the question, how
But
does
yeah.
it make you feel that I told you that? And now you see Drake has taken your spot. He has taken. What did Soulja Boy say? He stole your flow, bar for bar.
I mean, seeing Drake blow up and becoming who he is, for me that was definitely someone that I felt like I connected with as an artist. Before Drake, the closest I feel like I had to like feeling a connection with an artist would probably be Kanye, because prior to Kanye, it was a lot of Jay-Z, Nas, Ja Rule, like there's all these street artists, but I couldn't necessarily relate to their street life, but I was entertained by the stories and just I felt a certain emotion just listening to them. But when it came to Drake, that was like a identical almost person. Like this is someone that's just like me. He's black and Jewish, like has a very similar background. Of course, like his story and his background is a little bit different than mine, but just having the black Jewish connection, the biracial connection, whatever you want to call it, it was nice to see it. The idea of representation, like representation is everything. in the classroom, just in sports, everywhere, in music. Seeing somebody and be successful, and somebody that's connected, and someone that reminds you of yourself, that representation like goes a long way in inspiring others. And so just when I see Drake, I feel inspired, and I feel just proud. Like, that's a biracial black Jewish rapper that made it, and the odds were against him. Nobody expected him to be where he's at, coming from Degrassi, being from Canada, being biracial. Like, he had a lot of things against him, but he was a true artist, and he's obviously one of the greatest of all time at this point. But I'm happy for Drake, and like you said, you had a vision. You definitely saw that first. Maybe that was just a part of me being a little bit cautious, a little bit unsure.
There was nobody to relate that tear to, But
Exactly.
nah, it's all good. I like to joke around, and
Yeah.
obviously, I think Drake is a super dope artist, and
Of
happy
course.
that there was somebody able to represent out here for somebody like you to connect to and really feel like that's a relatable rapper that shows you that you could do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So shout out to Drake, man. Drake is obviously one of the greatest of all time, and it's safe to say that Zach's probably not a fan of They Not Like Us. But
Nah,
we-
not too much. Not too much, man.
so you brought up Reggie earlier, and I wanted to speak about this. Obviously, it's important. He's the third member in the group. Um, he's no longer in contact with either of us. Would you like to describe our dynamic back then and before we lost communication? Um, how do you feel about the distance now? So it's a three-part question. Can you talk about Reggie and our dynamic back then? And we'll
Mhm.
talk about, a little bit more of what we feel is going on.
Um, Back then, our dynamic was amazing. We was brothers. We was a family. A lot of funny moments that we shared. Just a lot of special times, especially like we talk about just that car, the Toyota, the Hoopty, whatever you want to call it. Like,
Reggie taught me how to drive in that car, but I'll tell that
yeah,
story.
like he was the first person that drove. He was the first one that had a whip, and we would just ride out together. And I feel like we went on journeys as a group together, and just traveling different places, just in New
At
York.
15, too. We were only
Young,
15.
young, yeah, being teenagers and just going out and having fun, going to parties. We used to go to the teen club back when we was younger. We used to like really be lit in the teen club when we was in high school. Uh, just Reggie's always going to be a brother to me, regardless of the communication now. But back then, we were super tight. We were super close. I remember we would do things like, remember we would go to the city, and we had a
I want to
plan.
talk about that.
Yeah, we had a plan to go and go in the Def Jam office and give them our demo. This is stuff we were doing independently on our own. You know,
Mind you, so I want you to stop that.
yeah.
Def Jam. My uncle was obviously the biggest. He created Def Jam. You're talking about JoJo Simmons used to go outside of Def Jam with his two group members and sit out there and envision wanting to sign to this type of label and wanting to be there and trying to get in on my own and get a demo to whoever was the president or anybody. I remember going to the front desk and they turned me down, JoJo Simmons. This is after my uncle sold it. But like, remember we went to the desk and Reggie was like, I hate that security guard. He ain't gonna let us in.
Yeah,
Like, we used to rap outside of there. We used to sit there. We used to just envision what life would be if we signed to a major label, and that goes back to the passion that we had of wanting to do it on our own, and right, and just wanting to just like, I'm gonna just do this, right? So I love that story because the three of us would really sometimes get on a train.
hmm
If we weren't getting dropped off to the city, it was most of the time we would hop on the train, the three of us, and go
Right.
to Def Jam and sit out there for 2 hours, and then just go back home and just talk and have meetings and be like, yo, we gonna do this. We gonna become a group. This is before we were on TV. This is before Run's House.
Yeah.
Before we started, man, those were good times.
Yeah,
I'm
I was
sorry,
about to say
finish.
those are the times that people don't know about, because they see Run's House and they think, oh, like we just appeared on the show, we just woke up one day and wanted to be rappers. Like it didn't go like that. We've been doing this for a long time, even prior to Run's House, and we were doing things like that independently and trying to make things happen on our own. We was going to the studio. We was paying for our own studio time and at Miller's, and recording.
Dunkirk in the hood in
Yeah,
Queens. Yeah.
exactly. And like you said, like we meet up, we take these trips to Manhattan on the train together and go in the Def Jam office on our own, like nobody else helping. And we try to see if we could talk to somebody. I remember one time we even had like my mom call the Def Jam office because she had a very professional sounding voice on the phone. Yeah, it act like our assistant and like talk to the people at the office and tell them that we come in, and we tried all kinds of tactics to get on before Run's House was even a thing, and that's just a
I
part of
love it.
our story.
Yeah. Yeah, man, Reggie, my guy. Back in the day, me and Reggie were on and off, hot and cold. You know how that was. Like,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
kick Reggie out the group every other month because we used to just argue about dumb stuff. Like, you're out the group, right? Like, but
and I had to
Reggie was my
find him to
guy,
get
man.
back.
Yeah, Reggie taught me how to drive. Literally at 15, before I ever drove a car, Reggie was like, "Yo, drive the Toyota." We was in Roosevelt Field Mall, and he was like, "Yo, we in the parking lot. Just go up and down the parking lot and do that." And Reggie taught me how to. Not to say that he taught me, "Yo, put your hand right here," but he was like, "Yo, get in the car and get comfortable here. Drive, bro." Like, I don't know if his parents knew that, but like
Right.
15, he was like, "Hey, drive, bro." Like, and that was the first car that I actually ever drove. Was that blue Toyota Camry? So shout out to Reggie on that one. Now I want to talk about, now that we've kind of lost communication with Reggie, although there's been little inklings of him dropping in and us talking to him.
Hmm.
How do you feel about the distance now?
I mean, it hurts, I consider him a brother still. Like I said, we were all very close, and we went through something very unique together. Not not everyone gets to experience the things that we experienced being on TV and
We
doing.
made money, closed deals. We went
Right.
on good shows.
It was on a professional level. It wasn't like no amateur stuff. It was on a professional level, the things that we were doing. And not a lot of people can say that they had that experience in high school, in your early years. So I always cherish those moments, and he's a part of that history. And, he's always going to be a brother to me, regardless of how he's feeling, whether he's angry or not angry or however he feels about the situation or what's going on here. Like, I'm always going to consider him a brother. And we spent too much time together not to. We've been too close for me not to think of him in that way.
Um, I'm happy you did that because this is why I wanted that question. I wanted to call out. I know he's gonna watch this episode. He may not, but I'm sure he will. He knows he knows who and I just want him to know, like, bro, we love you. Like, I know you
Right.
and I, Reggie, have had some times, right? We've had some discrepancies, and the last discrepancy we had shook the whole group as friends, right? Not even the rap group. We were done rapping together, but we were all friends. And I feel like you're holding that against Zach, whatever me and you went through, and I think you shouldn't hold it against him, even if you hold it against me. I did reach out to Reggie, recently, maybe last year. I went to his house. He wasn't there. His parents were there. They told him. He showed up to my artist show. I did see him. It felt like an embracing of love. I asked him, hey, I was running around because I was producing the show and hosting it as well. And I said, hey, let's talk after the show. And he was gone. The next day I texted him, my text went green. So that was my last encounter with Reggie. I know that we had a really bad encounter before that, when things got really heated between the both of us. But I just want him to know that I forgive him, and I hope he forgives me. Because growing up, I got my life. I got a whole different perspective on life now, and life is too short to be beefing with people you've made special moments with. So, like,
Right.
just want that to be a call out that, like, yo, bro, like, you're the third member of a group that may not have did big things, but we did big things in our mind. One of the biggest moments for me was when we closed the K1X deal and we broke down a nice little check.
Yeah.
And Christmas time, y'all in there going to Tiffany, getting your girl and your mom Tiffany, and
Yeah.
y'all, we 16, 17, and we got little bags on us. I'm going into Louis and copping Louis, and
Yeah.
because Team Blackout was making some decent money, and that was the coolest thing to me. Wasn't just making you guys famous; it was letting you guys see, like, this is possible. You guys can make money at a young age off this, and we were. And even the publishing checks, they still roll in sometimes, right? We've
Right.
seen decent publishing checks off Team Blackout. We've seen some thousands, right? Like, so,
Right.
like, I say that to say that it was a great moment in time for me. Obviously, way past it. But just want Reggie to know that, like, you our guy, bro. Like, I remember when you first got in the group, and I knew Reggie in high school, but I didn't know him, right? When I tried out for the basketball team, he claims the story is, and I'd love to get him on this podcast if he ever is interested, but he claims the basketball team, and then like he came up to me, he's like, "Yo, you made the team," and I was like, I said something slick like, "Yeah, whatever," or something, and I don't remember that,
Mm.
but remember the day you told me, "Yo, I know this third guy that I've been getting cool with. He can rap. He's a really good rapper,"
Mm.
and I don't know who I thought I was. I thought I was big CEO, and I was like, "Yeah, put him on the phone, make him rap for me," and yeah, I got on the phone with him, and he was in the mall, and he just started rapping mad 16s. And I was like, oh, this dude is nice. I'm like, yo,
Right.
Zach. I remember hanging on the phone like he signed. Like
Yeah.
who am I signing? With what paperwork, bro? Like I was like, he signed.
What paperwork?
Bro, he's Team Blackout. And a lot of people don't know. Reggie loved being a solo artist. I'll speak for him.
Mm. Okay.
And when I finally decided, right before, after the season one of Run's House, and I was starting to see me and you and Reggie were getting closer and closer as a group, we started going to the studio more because originally it was Team Blackout featuring Reggie. Reggie would just kind of rap with us, but he wasn't officially part of the group. I don't know if you remember that. And I
Yeah.
remember us being in the blue Toyota, the three of us and like Wiz, I think. And we
Mhm.
were driving, Reggie was driving, and I was like, yo, Reg, you want to be part of Blackout? Like, I think we should make it. I was like, my dad had a 3-man group. It only sounds right to have a 3-man group. I think you're perfect. He was like, oh, that's official, but like, can I still be a solo artist? And remember how mad I got?
Yeah.
He was like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? I'm like, we
Yeah.
gotta do it. We gotta move together. We gotta be in unison. Da,
Yeah.
da, da, da,
Yeah.
da. And he
Yeah.
didn't. He wanted to be in the group, but he still wanted to keep his independence. And eventually, he was like, you know what? The group, I'm all in on the group. And we signed the label. We signed with Latchkey Koch. We
Right.
signed the K1X deal. We started working with Rockwalla and Chris and Teeb, and
Mhm.
things started moving
That's what happened.
fast for us, right?
Mhm.
And that's how Reggie got in the group was he came last, but he was there for a while, and he was the one that put us on the Miller that we used to
Right.
record on Dunkirk, and that's when we really got closer when we started recording in Queens together, and it was
Right.
over. We became Team Blackout full fledged. He came and recorded with us in the basement a few times, and Reggie was looking at us like, "Nah, bro, I got a professional. I got a real
Right.
studio we can go to and record." Because he would show us his solo music, and we'd be like, "Yo,
Right.
where you record this at?" He'd be like, "Yo, right there, like $25 an hour." And
Right.
we'd all get $25 and do 3 hours. Remember, everybody
Right.
would get $25. I
Yeah.
would get my 25. You would get your 25. He would get his 25. And we'd do 3 hours and knock out 5 songs if we could,
Right.
because
Right.
we would write them before we'd get in there. We were
Right.
smart about our hours.
Right.
Ah, wow, those are. I'm listening.
No, in a way, also just how you described that, he was kind of like Reggie was like our Jam Master Jay at the time, not being the DJ, but just being the third member that came later on in the group and introducing new things to us to better us. Just the way that they say JMJ came and he brought the style and the fashion to Run DMC and changed up the look.
Reggie didn't bring the style and fashion, but yeah,
Right, right,
he
right.
brought he,
But
he brought he brought a lot of help when it came to the quality of the music, and he brought a lot
exactly,
of help when it came to the
bring
direction of where we
studio.
were going. But
Uh,
I definitely bring the style and the fashion. You know what I mean?
Oh no, no,
Keep
you
running.
you had the fashion locked down, but just
That's it. With
him being that third member and yeah, and just adding a
you
new
know, he
energy
was
to
helpful.
the
We needed
group.
him. We needed him. He added a great new energy, and he added the mysterious energy. I always thought, like, he
Yeah,
was the third member. Like, who is he? Like, where is he from? Shout
right,
out to Long Island too, because I want to talk about this. I thought it was very important for me to also add a guy from Long Island. I felt like Long Island never really got a lot of shine, and I was like, oh, cool, this guy's from Hempstead. We're from Queens. Let's bridge the. I don't know if you ever knew that I thought like that, but I was like, dude's from Long Island. This is dope. We got a Long Island dude in our group, right? And from Hempstead. And Hempstead's very official, by the way. Like, it's not like people think Long Island is like, oh, no, but
right.
Hempstead is
No,
super duper official, right next to Queens.
right, right.
I thought it was cool to have a Long Island kind of, representative in the group. So that was also a cool thing.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Going out of the group and talking about like your career and your new career, your growth. You're now a music teacher with multiple degrees. How did you decide to pivot from wanting to be an artist to pursuing music through education? Like,
So,
what made you say, yo, I remember we were in college together, but what made you pick that to be like, I'm going to be a music teacher?
well, I gotta give a shout out to a woman that you know by the name of Robin Korn. She was our a principal in elementary
Yep,
school, like we mentioned,
yep,
Highland Elementary, where we met.
yep.
Highland ended up being the place that I would first begin teaching at, so I came back and became a teacher there, and it was
At the
very,
same school that we met. So yeah, bring that back. At the same school we met, you
yeah, the
became a
same
teacher.
school.
You started your teaching career.
Right. So full circle moment, come back to Highland. She's the one that reached out to me to ask me to come and teach music at the school. At the time, I was about to graduate from college, undergrad, and I didn't really know what direction I wanted to go in at the time. I was still young, just trying to figure it out. Of course, I always loved music. I was always involved in music in different ways, rapping or playing instruments, being in jazz bands, like you said. And she always remembered that about me, just being a music guy. So she had reached out to me, kind of put the bug in my ear, like, why don't you come over to Highland and be the music teacher? When Mr. Berman retires, you could come and fill in his spot. So I was kind of just brought in, and that was how my music career, my music teaching career, took off. I was brought to Highland, and the rest is history. I found myself really liking the experience of working with the kids and being able to teach music and teach them how to play instruments. It was very, very dope for me to go and be a music teacher there. And then I went off and went further with my teaching and my education as well. Got my 2 masters, my first master's in childhood education and special education, and my second master's that I just recently earned is in school leadership. So, I'm taking my education career, to the next step, and the future is bright, and just looking to see what's up next for me.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what's next for you personally and professionally, but it seems like you kind of knocked that down. You got a few more degrees coming, it seems like, and you're gonna keep growing in the education space. What was that moment like for you of realizing, okay, I'm no longer a rapper, but I'm gonna take this teaching thing serious, and this is gonna be my career? Was it like a moment where you're like, yo, like, all right, it's over, it's time to wrap this up, and maybe stop, put down the pen, and I don't know if you still work on rhymes, but like put down the pen and focus on life. What was that moment for you? Was it like groundbreaking? What was that for you?
There was a time when I was still working on my stuff. We all were working on solo music. You, me, Reggie, we were all doing our solo thing at that time. So my plan was I was going to go in, I was going to be a music teacher by day, and then at night I was going to go record and continue my solo path in music. But the teaching just kind of got a hold of me, and I ended up just going with that full force and just following the education path. And it was just a gradual process that just eventually happened like that. I found myself just putting more energy into teaching and giving back to the kids in that kind of way. And I felt teaching really gave me a great sense of purpose. Not that hip hop didn't, but it's just something different for me at the time. I was still figuring out where I was going to go in life. So it gave me a sense of responsibility. Like, becoming an educator really changes you as a person. It makes you more responsible, because it's not just about you now. You're working, especially me in elementary school, you're working with little kids. You're working with the youth, the future of the world. So, I took that responsibility very, very highly, and that's just the path I ended up going in.
Yeah, I think it's perfect path for you. You're very mild mannered and patient. You've always been that way, and
Mhm.
with a good spirit and a good heart. So I think that you're in the perfect lane for yourself when it comes to teaching. I think you're the perfect person for the job, especially being the music maniac you are,
Yeah.
and knowing all arts of music from hip hop to jazz to it all. I think there's nobody better to teaching the kids our future, what music's all about, not only where it's going, where it's at, but where it came from. And I think you're the perfect guy for that. I do love the story you told me that some of the kids' parents recognized Team Blackout Zach in the school you currently work in. You want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah, that definitely happens from time to time still, which is dope. Be like first day of school. I think last year was the first day of school, and I'm outside greeting families, welcoming the kids to the building. And I remember one of the ops members of my school came up to me, the operations team, and they was like, a parent asking about you. They said, like, because I don't know if all my coworkers are aware of my music history when it comes to Team Blackout and Run South. Some of them do know, but I'm not sure like how many really are aware of it. Like, they might know that I have some kind of history in music, but they don't know per se like what exactly it is. So I think it might have caught some of them off guard. Like Zach, like, you was on TV, like, are you
Mm-hmm.
famous? Like what's going on? Like, so
What are you doing here, right? They always hit you with that kind of like
yeah.
vibe, right?
Cause I've always been very low key, and I've kind of kept it pretty low when it comes to just my Team Blackout stuff at work. You know, when I'm at work, I'm Mr. Elishevitz. You know, I'm Zach to my coworkers. You know, I'm here to do my job and try to be as professional as I can, and develop
As you should.
my relationships and networking and all that. But I've kind of kept my music career, discreet
Separate.
at work.
Hmm. Yep. So, as we wrapping up, got two other questions I wanted to ask you. Obviously, here at the For Good Podcast, we're big on mental health. And I don't know if you're big on your mental health, but we'd love to know, what have you done for your mental health lately, for anybody listening that may want to use the same regimen or, routine.
Well, I've definitely done therapy in the past, just mental health wise. Not that like I'm going through really severe things personally, but just using it as a tool to just help me just think out my thoughts and decision making and just life decisions and stuff. Like I found therapy in the past to be very helpful for me. I haven't gone in a while, but I definitely would recommend it to anybody, just from a mental health standpoint, just finding somebody to talk to, not relying on ChatGPT. Although AI is a powerful thing and could be very useful, a useful tool in a lot of different things. But when it comes to the mental health side, of course, you could get little tidbits of information from ChatGPT to help you with that. But I would recommend going and finding a professional therapist, an actual person, and just talking and bouncing thoughts and ideas back and forth. I always found that to be a helpful thing for me, and just on a day-to-day basis when it comes to my mental health. I try to do things like when I wake up in the morning, try not to look at my phone or look at social media right away. Give myself a good 30 minutes or so to just get settled into the morning, take a shower, get my mind right, get ready for work. And then, once I head out for work, then I'll open up the phone and start going through my social media and just looking at things. But, just taking the time to give myself a few minutes, at least, half an hour or so in the beginning of the day for myself. I've tried meditation in different aspects of something I want to do more of meditation. So there's a lot of different ways you could go with it, but those are the things I find that have been most helpful for me.
I love that. That's good. I mean, I hope the listeners were listening. Those are valid points. Um, so as we wrap this up, I want to know if there are any books or music that you've been inspired by lately that the people may want to know about. Or a
Um,
movie, anything you've been inspired by. It could be anything you've been inspired by.
Man, I mean, I do enjoy reading. Uh, I also have been just watching a lot of content. I enjoy watching a lot of different content, whether it be entrepreneurial stuff or self-help stuff. Anything on YouTube. There's so many different gurus and people on YouTube that got useful information. So I just try to take a little bit from everybody. Uh, and currently I'm actually reading a book. This is not really a mental health thing, but just reading a book about the story of Hurricane Carter, the boxer. They made a movie about him. Denzel played him back in the day, called Hurricane. And just talking about his life story, the book that he wrote when he was in prison and he was wrongfully accused of a murder, that he didn't commit. So I'm in the beginning of the stages of reading that book, and it's something that I've always wanted to learn more about. I remember seeing a movie when I was a kid, and always wanted to get my hands on this book. But back then, I feel like it was harder to find. But now I was able to get it, Amazon, and that's what I'm currently reading at the moment. But
That's dope. I want to hit you. You got me ready to read it.
yeah, telling his life story, just seeing what he was going through in prison at that time is a very reflective narrative.
Man, that's amazing. I appreciate that. Usually when I ask that question, people don't. Some people give good answers, but that was a great answer. You really gave what you were reading and what it was about to really give context to people that may want to read it. I'm definitely gonna go try to pick that book up now. Appreciate that. Zach, as we wrap up this episode, I appreciate my boy, my brother, my guy since first grade. We've seen it all together. I think we've only had one argument ever in life. We won't talk about those moments, but like, man, I appreciate you coming on this podcast. This is one of my favorite episodes. I say that about a lot of people, but truly today, I felt at home. We went past an hour just because, like, the memories, us going down memory lane. You made me tear up a little bit. Just feeling the love through the screen. You're really my brother. I love you. You are the brother that I didn't have before Diggy and Russie came into my life. That's why I think you were a very important person in my life, and your parents taking me in every weekend and letting me sleep over every weekend and waking up to corn muffins and bagels. Your pops giving us, going to the store. Like, all of that played a very pivotal part in my life, my childhood, of just not having much boys in the house growing up. I grew up with all sisters, so to be able to go to somebody else's house and have that boy, that brotherhood, that friendship, that felt like I had somebody that I could relate to in a sense, I could talk to, the yin to my yang, as we would say, the guy that was calm but I was loud, but it worked, just because, like, it was the true brotherhood and genuine love for music and each other, and just there would be times where we didn't have nothing to do together and we'd just chill, so, like, very, don't, I want you to know, and I'll give everybody their flowers, that, like, you're my guy, you're my brother, you've been through it all, you was in my wedding, you're the godfather to, Mia, you're one of the godfathers to Joey, as he has a godfather village, as we know. So, like, you've always shown up at every turn, so appreciate you. I love you, my brother. I appreciate you coming on the For Good podcast. You could peace out the people as we peace out. But yeah, everybody, this was another great episode of the For Good podcast, where we focus on the good, never the bad, and we're measured by what we do, not what we have. We're signing out till next time. It's your guy, JoJo, my brother, Team Blackout, Zach. Yeah, peace.
Deeper than rap, I tell you it's all worth it. We've gone farther and we way smarter, and it's an honor, I'm your kid's godfather. You use the V to drive me, smooth as a nozzle, doing music with my brother beside me.
Feel like a family reunion, still keep it moving. We've been on the grind, what y'all doing, still leveling up. I ain't doing too much, I use the hate for motivation, we could never get it done. Feel like a family reunion, still keep moving. We've been on the grind, what y'all doing, still leveling up. I ain't doing too much, I use the hate for motivation, we could never get enough.